Transition is the process of leaving all of the safeguards and all of the provisions that are given during the time your child is in the school system.
I just hear transition and it's, I'm in denial, I'm not there.
When I first heard the word transition, I had no idea what it was.
There's just a day when your child is out there alone and you hope you've done your best.
The fact that this is the rest of her life and I may not be here, that is a huge worry for me.
Parents feel anxious about their child's future. But when your child also has disabilities, the worries are even more intense, the fears, the unknown.
I don't know what to do. It's when he hits me. He's 15.
You can't see the forest for the trees.
This is harder than it ever was when she was little.
The thing about kids with disabilities is they grow up and turn into adults with disabilities, and they are in the real world just like anybody else.
Transition is an overwhelming issue for families. They feel like there's so many decisions to make, and one of the biggest decisions to make is what happens at age 18.
Probably every other day I say, because we're not always going to be here, we need to think about this or that.
We're talking about the rest of her life. What is she going to do, and what is she going to be, and where is she going to live?
You are here. This is your life and you need to pay attention to this. You need to do something. You need to make a plan. You don't have a lot of time. You're living it now.
I just think it's trial and error. There was just a lot of planning down 2 or 3 roads and then picking the best of the 3.
Probably near the end of middle school that I started really thinking about the end of high school and understanding that I needed to be thinking a little more specifically about skills and competencies for him that I really wanted him to be armed with, because time flies.
By the time families get to this stage where their child's 18 to 22, often they really feel burned out, tired, and hopeless about the future.
I think what myself and parents my age, by the time our kids hit high school, we're tired. We're tired of fighting for our kids' rights. And so sometimes we give up that fight.
Oh, no one is scheduled to come, or somebody got sick. How am I gonna get out of bed? That's scary. It's like, okay, no one's gonna hold my hand if this doesn't work. Now what do I do?
It's the telling of the story over and over again that is both fatiguing and frustrating.
I think my anxiety comes when I don't know what is going to happen to him.
The thing about children with disabilities is they're going to grow up just like other children. And as your child grows up, you start realizing this dream is not going to look like the standard dream. It's going to be different. So I think part of the process of transition to adulthood is families figuring out what that dream is going to be for their child.
His future vision is a life a lot like ours. I mean, he wants to live in his own place. He sees himself having a full-time job, getting himself around town.
Our goal for her is to live independently and be around her friends and have a job and do fun things in the community like everybody else her age.
I remember when I was his age and I was totally confused about what I would be doing with my life, the rest of my life, and I don't think he's very different from me. A lot of kids his age goes through the same thing, not necessarily because he has a disability, it has to be a lot different. However, I understand that it's going to be different for him.
I'm not a great adult in all areas, but I'm getting there in a lot of ways, and I knew that we were going to get there eventually, just like everybody else. I mean, you're not great at every single thing you try right off the bat, whether you have a disability or not.
Because all I wanted to make my mom feel happy for me, having a child in my life.
I believe what we are trying to do through transition is rebuild that hope and help families to come up with a picture for the future that's very positive.
I do worry about this next phase of life for my daughter and for my husband and I, but I am hopeful because things have gone so well so far.
I took over a lot of the things in high school that in the beginning of high school they were doing for me, so I didn't have to get, dropped into this whole college world where nobody does anything for you.
To shift from as much as we can to not be a decision maker anymore, but being more of an advisor. And doing that by really listening in whatever way that we can to what their preferences and choices are.
It's a scary process, but I'm trying to learn from my environment to get new ideas to see how we're going to be building his future.
Connecting with other families, hearing their stories, learning from them is a great way to build for quality of life after graduation.
What I would say to parents, I think, is make sure that they're included with their peers, because once they go out into community, that's exactly who they're around. They're not necessarily around the disability community. If they're going to be in the workforce, they're with typically developing people. So they need that experience.
And if I wanted to encourage any parent to do something, it would be, while you're working on today, also be working on the picture 5 years from now and 10 years from now, which sounds like an impossibility, doesn't it? It seemed impossible to me at the time.
Am I helping by helping, or am I going to help him more now by letting him do it by himself and maybe not do a good job, or maybe fail? It's okay to step back sometimes and just, appreciate who they are and where they are.
If there are things that you or your child can do by themselves, let that happen, because they're going to have to do a lot more by themselves when they're adults.
I need to think about that future. I don't know what is going to happen in that future. It's what it really scares me. But when I go and talk to my friends and they start giving me some ideas and I can see some stories that have been successful, it's what gives me hope.
He is now living in a home on his own with 2 other young men with disability, with staff supporting them.
I work at Academy Kids and at Barrett Creek Mall. I like it a lot, and that's really fun.
I'm in my last semester of graduate school. I'll be graduating in May with a master's degree in theological studies.
Texas Parent to Parent developed a program in the last few years called Pathways to Adulthood. Go to the Texas Parent to Parent website, click on Pathways to Adulthood, and find tools, ideas, links, concepts to help you plan for a good life for your child after graduation.